About 70% of people with mental illness actively conceal their condition, and it's often because of fear of stigma and discrimination. I look broadly at long-term consequences of mental health problems, looking at both social and economic impacts of mental health problems. Some people have predisposition, where they're more likely to have depression or mental illness, but actually that predisposition interacts with your environment. Stigma is a huge problem. I think it's always a really consistent and persistent factor in terms of people being open and feeling that they can disclose and get help. People are often worried about or anticipate discrimination in finding or keeping jobs. What can managers and employers do to support people with mental illness? Why it would make sense for them to support people with depression. There was quite a strong economic case in terms of the role of managers in actively supporting people with depression in the workplace. People with depression who lived in a context where managers were more supportive and more actively supported employees had better presenteeism, so they were working up to their full performance in the workplace, and also had less absenteeism. The most positive reaction really was managers who kind of actively supported the employees, so managers who didn't just refer them on to a healthcare provider, to other issues, but kind of made this more open culture in the workplace where people felt more comfortable to talk about the issues. And I think, for example, in the workplace, there's good evidence that the interventions are both cost-effective from the societal perspective, but also even from the employer perspective. We have diversity both in terms of GDP, both high-income countries and middle-income countries, but also in terms of culture, where we did notice some differences. This relationship between openness and productivity in the workplace was something that held across all of the countries, and that the impact of managers were just as important actually as the country's economic circumstances. There are some target groups that we need to focus on. There's a higher prevalence of depression among females. There is also relationships between education and productivity. I think higher educated people were less likely to take time off, and maybe there was some resistance in some of those roles, and more effort to conceal mental health problems. Actually, the prevalence of mental illness hasn't really decreased over time, and people still really do face a lot of stigma and discrimination and feel they have to conceal their mental illness. It's actually something that requires really ongoing efforts, I think, and real dedication from employees and policymakers, and actually the general public too, in terms of just being able to support your friends and colleagues when they need help.